The new abilities to rail grind and wall ride in Mario Kart World are some of the cleanest and most thrilling things added to the Mario Kart series. With some practice, you can jump from street to wall to rails so fluidly that it just feels satisfying. These mechanics have allowed the course design to open up like never before, allowing alternate routes for skilled players to take. These routes are fun and satisfying to pull off, but other than a few exceptions, nobody takes them. And there's a pretty good reason for it. It's faster to just drive straight and follow the regular pathway. In this video, I want to really understand why these alternate routes are slower. And then, I want to dive into some secret advantages these routes give you, and help you understand that simply knowing about these routes can make you a better player. So follow along and learn about the roads less traveled in Mario Kart World. We all understand that these routes tend to be slower, but can we explain why they are slower? What are the actual reasons? Well, from my experience, there are two. First, the verticality. Let's take a look at this route on Peach Stadium. As we take this route, we climb higher and higher above the rest of the racers, and increasing our height takes time. I mean, think about it. Walking 50 feet on flat ground would be faster than walking the same distance on an incline. But that loss of time isn't the only loss. Eventually, after we travel up above the course, we will need to fall back down. And in many cases, it's just a free fall, and if you fall for a long time, you will lose a lot of your momentum, letting the other racers easily pass you as you vertically travel up and down again. The second reason many of these alternate routes aren't as fast as the regular ones is the wall riding. While wall riding isn't necessarily super slow, many wall rides are done during turns, and because of that, many of the routes, like this well-known route on Toad's Factory, you can only do it by wall riding on the outside wall to get to them, which means you're taking a longer corner. There's a reason every time trial and most racers cut corners while they drive, because it's just a shorter route. Now, I cannot argue with the fact that many of the routes I am about to show are slower because of the height and the outside turns, but there are advantages to these routes, and they can easily make up for the time loss in many cases. And when they don't, these routes are still very fun and much cooler than the normal route. So as we look at some of my favorite alternate routes, let's learn some of the advantages that they secretly provide. Now, Toad's Factory has another alternate route that you might not know about. I'm sure some players wondered how to get up to this rail above us, but eventually, maybe you thought it's just too difficult or it must be a free roam area. Well, to get to this route, you need to time a charge jump to ride this rail upwards. Once you land on this rail, you get an easy rail ride through this claustrophobic turn. And at the end of the rail, you have a choice. You could jump over to the right for an easy and safe drift, or you could fall to the ground and join the other racers on this tighter turn. This is an example of my first advantage I want to point out. It's safe. While there is risk in performing the charge boost and landing on the rail, you are away from all the item frenzy below. And in this example, you can choose to continue your safety or to join the faster route. It also shares another advantage that I will point out in the next route on Wario Stadium. In the second half of the track, you can angle yourself towards the outside wall. If you are angled correctly, you will climb to the top and start this rail grind, where you will collect 5 coins and can side jump to get closer to the ramp. Like many routes, you avoid the item frenzy and you get 5 free coins, because most of the time, opponents don't take this route, so you can get easy coins for free by performing a simple trick, and no risk of taking the turn below too wide or too short. Next, we travel to Dandelion Depths. Many know about this trick shown off in the Nintendo Direct. At the end of the first very wide turn, you can start a wall ride here. It's recommended to have a mushroom to guarantee your success as you jump across to this upper area, but be careful. If you go too fast, you might end up out of bounds. Once you are on the upper path, we find our next big advantage. If there's an item box on the route, you can get it basically for free, with no contention from other racers. And in this example, you get a speed boost to jump right back into the action. On Dandelion Depths, there's another cool side route that I love to take, and I'm sure many of you don't know about it. As you enter the Dandelion Cavern, all the way on the right-hand side, there are these coins indicating a wall ride. You climb the wall, jump off, and then hard right off the boost ramp, back into the wall to climb to the second ledge. Here, there's another boost panel and some double item boxes to easily collect. Now, this route is much slower than the regular route. While it does avoid item frenzy, and if you succeed you get a double item box, It's a fairly difficult climb that I failed many times. To successfully accomplish this jump, after you jump off the first wall, you really need to angle yourself back into the wall as you land, or else you won't climb high enough. Now, another secret advantage that some of these routes can give you is the item quality. As you climb these walls, the rest of the racers will drive straight down the path, passing you, meaning your placement will become lower, giving you slightly better item chances. Is this example a great example to make this point because of how slow the route is? Maybe not, but the route is super cool to pull off, and you will get better items because of it. Dry Bones Burnout is filled with opportunities to do cool tricks throughout the entire course, which is why it's one of my favorites. But one route you may not know of comes at the end. This route is very long and secluded from enemy racers. After the gliding section, position yourself on the right-hand upper pathway. Towards the end of the pathway, we can charge jump onto the wall, climb, and start a rail grind on top of it. Then we can side jump into this curving wall, and instead of falling onto the small ledge below, we can jump to the left and follow this ledge. A mushroom or other speed item is advised to get to the ledge. This ledge leads to a glide ramp where we can go into the next lap on a higher and secluded section. This grants us a guaranteed item box and a more safe path for the start of lap 2 or 3. Additionally, the height/slow fall disadvantage of most alternate routes is mostly avoided as the regular route rises to us. I would say, you should never use this on the last lap, as much of the benefit comes from the safety after the starting line. On lap 3 especially, using mushrooms to speed through the lava is absolutely the better way to go. The second lap of Peach Beach is probably the coolest parkour section in the game, which is a shame that we only get to do it once, no matter what. The routes I'm about to show are what I'd say most rival the simple strategy of driving straight. During this first section, go off of the left side ramp and trick into the wall. You'll climb to this wire grind for some simple tricks. On the left, there is an opportunity to jump over to collect 3 coins and then jump back. Jumping down onto the bottom is fairly slow, but by taking this path, you get to avoid all the awkward rooftops while still getting this inside corner drift. After that hairpin corner, there's another open section with lots of opportunities to parkour. My favorite route is as follows. Like before, we trick off the ramp on the left into the wall and climb it. I then side jump off the wall to land on the right side rooftops. Off of this first jump, I land on the wire below so that I can side jump to the left side rooftops. The ending of the left side is better because it ends with a boost ramp, so we get to travel through the air instead of just slowly falling down. Now, these two sections have tons of opportunities for alternate routes throughout, so mixing it up is very fun, but can lead to failures and lagging behind if you make a mistake. Next, let's go to one of my favorite tracks, Acorn Heights. During the first vine section, with all the leaves and the vines in this little canyon, make your way to the right-hand side and hop or glide onto these vines. Trick from vine to vine to find yourself onto this upper leaf. Then trick onto the curved wall and land on top of this leaf that cuts out the last corner, which is this section's main advantage. It cuts corners sometimes. To get to this leaf, you don't take the fastest path, but it does give you a pretty big cut if you don't have the mushroom required for the shortcut below. Sadly, this route does skip over the item boxes, so keep that in mind if you decide to take it. This next route I'm going to show is probably the best alternate route I've found so far. At the start of the Speedway, as we go into this long turn, charge jump onto the wall angled heavily towards it. You'll slowly but eventually get to the railing on top. Then jump to the left to get onto this floating rail, where you will jump to an upper path that leads to a double item box. You can then jump onto this small rooftop and then onto this railing. This route offers all the advantages we've talked about so far. You avoid items and your opponents for a decent amount of time. You get 7 easy coins with a potential for 2 more on the awning. You get a guaranteed double item box, and you cut a large corner and avoid some tricky pathway. Additionally, both paths rise up to you, so you don't really fall down too far. This path is so worth it, especially if you need some coins, and it's fairly easy to pull off as long as you angle your first charge jump correctly. Now, directly following this, there's another cool route that I'm sure many of you have seen a little bit. As you jump off this rail, take a hard turn and jump trick into the wall, rail grind, jump into the curved wall, and jump to the left onto this upper area. Then follow it to this glider section with a double item box. Now this is my absolute favorite advantage I'd like to point out. It avoids so much of the water section. Now, water sections, while they are very fun, I find them to be the hardest sections because they are more sporadic and harder to turn on. While we're talking about water sections, I'd like to point out other shortcuts that help avoid water sections that are more well known because they're actually kind of fast, like the railing at the end of Wario Shipyard or this tricky railing on Faraway Oasis. Now, another great aspect to this Salty Speedway route is you don't necessarily climb up it. You just don't travel down at the same pace as the regular route. Additionally, you end with a glider, which severely diminishes how slow it is to descend. Now, while we are here, I'd like to point out that all of these routes can be tricky to pull off. I make mistakes taking them all the time, like here, where I cut in too far and fall off, but the feathers... well, at least there's this double items below... Oh, I missed that path too. Yeah, sometimes, while trying to take these routes, you can really mess up and lose a lot of placements. But with practice, you can pull these off fairly easily, and you'll be fine. Cheep Falls has two sections that I want to point out, and the first one is probably the worst path. You can skip this trick jump so that instead you can charge a charge jump onto this very inconsistent wall. If you do, you follow the curved wall, maybe, and jump to the left into this pool. Jump down into another secluded pool, and then jump down to join the rival racers. Now, this route does not have an item box, so you miss out on the items no matter what. And there is no reason to take this route other than it's kind of fun. But do not take this route. Instead, take this shorter but very easy to mess up route instead. After the first jump into the river, line yourself up to jump off this rock into this bamboo railing. Then you can neutral jump off the rail onto this pathway above. And as you turn to jump off this rock, if you have a mushroom, you can easily jump into this shortcut to cut out a wide turn. This route helps you avoid another pesky water section. It's quite simple, but it's very tricky to line up to the bamboo correctly. Now, these last sections are just some random routes that aren't the greatest, and I don't have any new advantages to explain, but I want to include them because they are very cool and very fun. On Sweet Canyon, on both sides of this very cool section with lots of pathways, there are panels you can jump onto. Rail grind them for plenty of coins and a safe passageway. Now, warning, this route is fairly risky. One wrong jump and you fall off the map. On DK Pass, everyone knows about this jump across the gap using the billboard, but you can also cut this second gap in a very stylish way. Drive off the ledge and trick into the wall. You can then jump off the wall to land in this snow pile, or continue the wall ride longer to land on this railing. It's a cool example of riding the inside wall on a turn, kinda like Sweet Canyon. But the one on DK Pass is not that useful and much more risky. We have Choco Mountain. On this section, somewhere in the middle, I can't really explain it, there's a simple jump to an unorthodox ledge. You need a mushroom boost to get to the wall with enough height, and I recommend having a few extra mushrooms or a speed item to make sure that if you fall, you don't land in the mud and get picked up by Lakitu. The final pathway I'd like to point out isn't a fancy one at all, and I want to show that taking alternate routes does not need to be tricky. In the third section of Rainbow Road, the space station section, the road breaks into two. Everybody takes the right path because it's a tighter turn. But if you take the left path, at first it is wider, but you actually cut over the lower path and take a very tight turn. In addition, there are boost panels to launch you into the corkscrew section. And you don't need to make the first harsh turn that the other path needs to take, you just drive straight. So take this final example as my explanation that not all alternate routes need to be difficult or messy. As we have seen from many of these routes, there are plenty of cool advantages that we get by taking the road less traveled. These routes should not be taken all the time, but if you need some extra coins, ride up the upper section of Salty Speedway. If you want a guaranteed item box, climb the crystal walls in Dandelion Depths. Need some alone time from the 23 opponents and their items? Glide safely to the upper section of Bones Burnout. Or, if you just want to feel like Tony Hawk, take them all the time. These sections have situational advantages. You won't always need them, but as long as you know about them, you'll be able to take them when they are beneficial. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed learning about these cool routes, just like my patrons did when they took the cool route to support me on Patreon. Your patronizing is what allows me to find these shortcuts and make this video. I hope you have a nice day, and thank you for watching. This ledge leads to a glide ramp where we can go into the next lap. You're welcome, Westin. I did not appreciate that.